After finally getting to sink my time into Fire Emblem 3 houses, there are a lot of things I have learned that definitely would have been helpful to know going through it the first time. That's okay though, because this game encourages you to play through it multiple times thanks to the 3 different houses. For those of you just getting started or are making your way through this jam-packed game, I want to share some tips about various things I've experienced. We'll talk a lot about the monastery and also a few things you can do in battle to help you become a better professor. First off, let's talk about professor levels because this has a huge impact on your monastery experience. To start the game, you only have a few activity points which you can spend every time you explore the monastery to either eat meals with students or participate in certain events. The higher your professor level, the more activity points you'll gain. To rank up your professor level, you'll gain points from doing just about any activity in the monastery, but a big help in the early game for me was finding certain blue wisps that grant a large amount of professor level EXP. Usually these blue wisps give you lost items to return to students, but there are ones that also just give experience, and these are amazing since you want to level up as fast as possible. I'm not sure if these are in set locations, but every time you explore the monastery, be sure to run around and look everywhere for these. In the monastery, fishing can be done without spending activity points, you just need bait. Early on, you're going to be hard pressed for bait, so it's important to know a few things. First off, you don't have to reel in the first fish you see. You can actually let the fish pass for around 3 times before your bait goes bad. The reason you would do this is because there are different sized fish which you can tell from their bite indicator. Blue fish are the most common, while red fish are the ones you want. Also, try to fish when there are special fishing events which you can see on the calendar. Some of them give you goldfish which are worth a decent amount of money, and one time I even had a rainbow colored fish called the Goddess Messenger. Fishing does give you a little bit of professor level experience, so if you're really close to leveling up, it's worth it to spend some time down at the docks. Another activity that doesn't cost activity points is the greenhouse. This is actually a very useful place because here you can plant flowers which can then be gifted to other characters. Be sure to plant flower seeds when you can. I'm not entirely sure what the different cultivation methods do, so I'll have to look more into that. You can return to the greenhouse after 1 week, which basically means the next time you come to explore the monastery. You'll be at the greenhouse a lot if you want to recruit a lot of students. I haven't seen a definitive explanation for how it works exactly, but it appears that support levels have a huge influence on recruitment. Instead of getting Violet stats high enough for everyone's taste, you can simply raise support levels with each character to help entice them to your side. Giving them gifts such as flowers from the greenhouse or returning lost items is one way to help gain support points. Eating or cooking meals with them are another great way to become friends. This is why you'll want a higher professor level so you can eat more meals with more students you want to recruit. Later on, you can also invite them to tea parties. If you're not in the Golden Deer house, you may have thought Hilda was not recruitable, but it turns out that after getting some support points for her, I was finally able to get the option to invite her for tea. I've heard there's some complications for getting her, but to even have a chance, you're gonna have to raise your support levels with Hilda from what it sounds like. To help you out with fishing, the greenhouse, and recruiting students, a very important thing to do is to unlock the eastern and southern merchants. These two become available after you complete a certain side quest which requires you to do a side battle. I don't have footage on me, but I believe the quest was called Clearing the Way. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And you get it from talking to someone in the monastery, so be sure to check the quest board every month. This happens about 3 or 4 months in, I believe. These merchants sell you fishing bait, greenhouse seeds, food used for cooking, tea leaves, and even gifts for your students. It can be costly, but if you have side cash, you can buy their stock of an item, and in the next month, they're going to refresh their stock again. For players who want to recruit a lot of students, this is an absolute must. Next, let's talk about some of the activities you can do in the monastery. When you share a meal with a student, you restore their motivation and raise support levels. I believe if they like the dish, they will fully restore their motivation, so choose someone with the blue arrows next to them. Later on, when you have more activity points to spend, you can eat multiple meals to raise 2, 4, or 6 students back to full motivation, and that allows you to instruct them more when instruction day comes. I've been using this feature a lot more once I had more points to spend. If you cook a meal, you can raise everyone's stats for the month, so this is nice if you plan to battle a lot later on. For tournaments, I've been reading that a lot of people weren't aware that you have 2 chances to heal up in between rounds. Unless your participant is an over-leveled monster, you're definitely going to want both of those heals. For choir practice, this event raises everyone's Fate skill levels. Fate is tied to white magic or healing magic. If you want to help your healer out, then bring them down for some singing. When you train your students to become better killing machines, you definitely want to know that mastering a class has benefits sometimes. You gain class mastery just by fighting more, and the very first noble/commoner class that everyone starts off with actually has a decent bonus. If you master either class, your unit gets HP plus 5 as an ability, and they can use this ability on any other class afterwards. It's a nice help for the early game, but you can replace it later on. I'll link a post to a chart on what classes gain what abilities when mastered. They can even learn combat arts, but I believe those combat arts are tied specifically to that class and cannot be carried over to another one. Some really strong mastery bonus abilities I've had are the Brigand one, which gets you Death Blow, plus 6 strength when initiate. The mage ability is Fiendish Blow, which is plus 6 magic when you initiate, and then mercenaries get Vantage. Personally, I would master the noble or commoner class if you want, but not to master the beginner classes because you get to intermediate classes really fast. Now, if you're a min-maxer who wants to master a class to get a certain ability or gain more skill level experience, then it's pretty easy to farm either one, albeit it's going to take a lot of time. Since you gain experience just for fighting, you can give your units weak weapons, such as the rusted weapons, and let them purposefully not kill an enemy. Every time they fight, they gain class mastery and skill level points, and as long as you keep them alive, you can do this for a while. Just be sure to heal them up or fight an enemy that does 0 damage to them. Last thing I want to talk about in this video involves gambits and battalions, a new feature for Fire Emblem, and I wasn't sure how they would play into combat, but man, are these things really good. First thing you want to know is that battalions grant stat bonuses. If your archer is feeling a little weak, give them a battalion that boosts their physical attack. To use stronger battalions, a unit needs a high authority level. This is definitely something I regret not focusing on when training my units early on. You don't have to only focus on improving authority, but if you don't know what else to set as a goal for someone, I would suggest authority because battalions are awesome. In terms of gambits, be sure to read up on what the effects of a gambit are because they differ from battalion to battalion. Some grant an AoE heal while others deal damage. When you make your way into the later parts of the game, you'll find gambits are very useful when fighting the giant beast enemies. You can break multiple parts of their barriers if your gambit has an area of effect range. Overall, definitely do not ignore authority skill levels, battalions, or gambits. That's just some of the things I wanted to share from my experiences with the game so far. There is just so much to learn, and I definitely do want to do more detailed videos about certain aspects. If you have any tips for everyone, please share them in the comments. 3 Houses is still fresh, and my god is this game long, so I'm sure everyone is still learning new things. If you have any suggestions for videos you want me to make, you can also leave those in the comments. I have some ideas, but I still have a lot to learn myself. Have fun being a professor, and I'll see you guys in the next video.